Hello, beautiful people. It's Maggie with Minds on Mushrooms. As many of you know, microdosing helped me beat depression, break free from alcohol, and shift my perspective in ways I never imagined. So becoming a partner with the Golden Rule, it's more than a collaboration, it's a calling. For anyone curious about microdosing, having the right support and guidance makes all the difference, and that's why I love the Golden Rule. They're a female-founded microdosing company offering premium blends, guided programs, and the education you need to feel truly supported on your journey. So whether you're seeking clarity, creativity, deeper connection, or transformation, they've got you. Head on over to goldenrulemushrooms.com and use the code Maggie10, that's Maggie10, to save 10% on your order. Again, head to goldenrulemushrooms.com and use Maggie10 at checkout. And if you have any questions or want guidance, feel free to DM me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm here for you. Trust the process, trust the source, the Golden Rule. Hello, friends. Today on Minds on Mushrooms, I'm joined by two powerhouse women, Tiffany Hurd and Rachel Pastor, the visionary founders of the Golden Rule. This female-founded microdosing company is changing the game by not only offering premium, intentional blends, but also the education and support people truly need on their journey. Tiffany and Rachel are here to share how microdosing became a mission, a movement, and a calling. Let's dive in. Hello, hello. Welcome back to Minds on Mushrooms. I'm your host, Maggie Kirkwood. Today, we have two wonderful women here joining me from the Golden Rule. We have Tiffany and Rachel. Thank you so much for being here today. Welcome, ladies. I'm so excited to dig in, learn more about both of you personally, and then hear about what you're offering for everyone today. Thank you so much.
So we're representatives of Golden Rule, Tiffany and I are. And Golden Rule at the surface level is a products company. But we are so much more than that. And so sometimes it's hard for me to say that we are a products company because it's so much deeper than that. We truly are in education and in helping people with so many different aspects of themselves that they're really looking to elevate or to have relief from, in finding joy, in finding freedom, in finding peace. And, that's all through helping people through wellness in general, more focus, more clarity, more creativity, but also through PTSD, OCD, ADHD, and traumas, anxiety, depression, the list goes on. And we're doing that through psilocybin and microdosing specifically, and as well LSD and psilocybin are areas that we work in the most. So that's what we're here for.
Wonderful. Yeah, the listeners are probably very familiar, but microdosing psilocybin, I like to say, saved my life. So I am just so thrilled and honored to have you on here and doing exactly that, helping to educate people to understand what I believe is a very simple and safe and effective tool to help us heal and do all the wonderful things. I was curious, I would love to learn a little bit more about both of your kind of personal journeys and do you have stories to share of how psilocybin or other plant medicines brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You want me to go first, Rach?
Sure, why don't you go first?
Yeah, we always flip it around. So I started working with microdosing about 8 years ago, and I was on antidepressant medication, Lexapro and Adderall. I was in the corporate industry at the time in high executive sales positions, managing teams in the healthcare pharmaceutical industry for about 16 years. And so you kind of take the high stress levels, the anxiety, the symptoms of depression start to come in when you're in a career for that long where you're successful, but you're unfulfilled. And you kind of pair that with unresolved trauma that seems to find its way in when something is poking at a very big, important life scenario. And so, one thing led to another. And I was on the medication for about 6 years and was doing the work. I was in therapy. I was in emotional intelligence leadership programs. I'm very type A, have a Division I basketball background. And so none of it, you played too?
I did, not D1, but I was,
Okay.
I was D2 and,
Nice.
yeah.
I love that. Nice. I love that. Yeah. So, it didn't make much sense to me because I was so driven all the time, but a very instability upbringing, it all made sense at some point. And so long story short, I started microdosing and started hearing about psychedelics. Obviously 8 years ago, nothing was mainstream in the ways that it is today. So I found enough information to put myself on my own protocol and paired that with lifestyle changes and just doing deeper dives into self-exploration, and ended up getting off both of those medications within 3 months.
Wow.
And not only did I get off the medication and started to process things that I needed to, it just opened up this whole new perspective of this deep inner knowing and this deep calling of I need to share this. I need to serve this work. And I ran from it for many years. I'm like, I am not leaving this corporate job. Although I'm unfulfilled, I am not leaving this cozy financial setup to go start a business. So I went back and forth for many, many years until I eventually listened and answered and took that journey. And so I started to support people with microdosing, teaching them how to work with the medicine, how to microdose, how to receive the benefits, everything along those lines. Started facilitating higher ceremonial work, and then eventually paired the business background with the psychedelic experience and started advising for wellness and psychedelic companies. And so, that's how the journey started and that's how it progressed. And now it's here where we are today.
Wow. I love it. And I love the way your story just flowed so elegantly. And I know sometimes you've done well putting that together and sharing. Good work. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Maggie.
Rachel, I'd love to hear your personal journey.
Yeah. So, like everybody, it's been an unfolding, it always is. It's an unfolding to that point where psychedelics do come in and become an amazing tool in your life for transformation. But that actually was a little bit later on for me. The unfolding really started for me between the ages of 15 and 20. So between the ages of 15 and 20, I was a heroin addict and I was homeless during that time. And it was at the age of 20, I really had a death or change moment. And that was when my boyfriend passed away from a heroin overdose. We had been addicts together the whole time. We had become addicts together when I was 15 and then until he passed away. And, through that time, I really had tried many times to change my life. I had been, going to methadone clinics. I had been in and out of rehab. And I really did want to change, but the addiction just had such a strong hold on me. And it ultimately became a huge part of my identity. Well, when I was in that death or change time, I always say that I really feel like it was me being able to overcome that was really me like on angel's wings. It was a power greater than me. And there was a moment after he passed away that I literally got down on my knees and I prayed to a God that I didn't even know that I believed in at that time. And I was like, either one, just take me out of this. I'm done. I'm so tired. I'm done. Or help me. And so I ended up getting enough money to buy a one-way ticket to Hawaii. I took everything I had that I owned, fit in a backpack, And I went there and I told myself when I got off that plane, I would never use again. And I didn't.
Wow.
But it was a long road to recovery. And that recovery really went all the way in years and years and years past that. I got invited to go to the gym when I lived there, and I was invited by my boss, Mimi, and she wanted to lose weight. So she'd asked if I'd go to the gym with her and walk on the treadmill. And at that time I was thinking, who the hell would ever want to go to a gym and walk on a treadmill? To me, that just sounded horrendous. Like, I was like, that doesn't even sound fun. Going to the gym in general didn't sound fun to me. I was like, what is this? But I wanted a friend, bottom line. I just wanted a friend. And so, I really feel like that was what I was going for. And we had great conversation, and we walked on the treadmill, and it was just so nice. And when I left there, I just kept going back because I felt better. And I kept going back. And then one day I went and I sat in a cycling class, and the lights go down and the music comes up and everybody's just hooting and hollering, and the energy in the room is just, it's contagious. And I just start pushing myself, and I'm just going and going. I've never pushed myself so hard. And I leave that class on cloud 9. The endorphins are just kicking. And I get in my car, roll the windows down, and on the way home, and I'm just like, whatever this is, I'm just declaring it. I'm like, whatever this is, I'm bringing this to the world, because I didn't need to take drugs. I was feeling so good.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, in that moment, I remember it so clearly, became my mission in life. And my mission in life is to bring the joy of wellness to the world. And I did. I went on that journey. I moved back to Colorado. I went back to school. I worked in the fitness wellness industry for 15 years, from owning gyms to working with Chris and Heidi Powell from ABC Weight Loss Edition. We helped thousands of people around the world. And then, started Colorado's, at that time it was Colorado's largest fitness festival.
Okay.
And it's just this light inside of me to bring this to the world. Well, as I said earlier on, the transformation and the unfolding of that really took years and years and years. And it was years into me even going into working in the fitness industry and running these businesses, is I had overcome the physical addiction of heroin, but the mental and emotional was still there. So all the reasons I became a heroin addict in the first place, all that trauma, everything was still carried with me. Gotcha. And I hadn't worked through that. I had not yet worked through it. And it was, shown to me in many different aspects, but mostly through my leadership. And it was really coming through in my leadership, and all of my fears and all of my insecurities, and all of my lack of love for myself and empathy for others. And so it became this like black mirror almost. It was like, you need to look at me. You need to look at me over and over and over again. And so I had an experience with one of my teams around the festival, and, we put on this amazing, huge festival, and it was incredible. And I was like, all right, who's ready to go again? And all of them just looked at me and they're like, we're done. And ultimately they weren't done because of the event. They were done because of the leadership that was in place. And it was really,
oh, wow.
And so I was like, all right, I hear you, God. Like, message heard. I need to work on myself, and so I did. I went on this deep journey of really a lot of self-discovery, and I'd already been getting deeply into neuro-linguistic programming, and I became a master of neuro-linguistic programming, which led me deeper down this hole of just the massive power we all have to reprogram ourselves. And just, the power held within each of us is beyond what I really feel like most people even understand or know. And so that led me into microdosing, into psychedelics, and then I eventually went on a retreat for ayahuasca, sat with ayahuasca. And it was this very clear understanding for me. One, it kind of brought me earlier on when I started to realize the power wheel I had. I couldn't work in the fitness industry anymore. Not that it wasn't great and wonderful and helping people. I believe in movement and fitness. It's all so good for you. Mm-hmm. But I had now seen something deeper to me that really was something that people needed help with. And so I let go of my companies, sold them and moved on. And in that ayahuasca ceremony, I was really shown, like, Rachel, you're meant to be the bridge to help others into this amazing, beautiful world of psychedelics, basically. And so, because what I had seen so much in the psychedelic space was ultimately it was very almost too weird for a lot of people. Like the imaging and the branding and like kind of the messaging around it.
Okay.
Which, trust me, I don't think it's weird because I've been in deep psychedelic journeys. Like I know, it's not weird to me. But to the other 41-year-old soccer mom living in suburbia like me,
Sure.
Can be a little strange, not very welcoming, right? So how do you help that person feel comfortable to be able to try this beautiful sacred medicine that could completely transform their lives? Like, how do you open that door for them?
Absolutely.
And so that's really, in me getting involved in Golden Rule really has been that path of helping people in that way. And that really is such a huge part of Golden Rule and a lot of who we help. So, our messaging and our branding and just the way we created Golden Rule and how all of our team works through it is, we're really helping bridge that gap. And so a lot of people that we help are first timers. They're people who are brand new to the space who have, felt very intimidated in trying microdosing, helping them through that reprogramming of, whatever they've been programmed into of like drugs, bad, and really being able to help them see it more as like a wellness supplement in some aspects. Yeah. So that's my story.
Well, I think such a big piece of it is really just normalizing conversation around all of it, right? And for me, maybe 3 years into my psychedelic journey, even though I experimented, decades ago in college, but just using with intention and responsibility. And I am still just learning leaps and, it's a never ending learning process, right? So Rachel, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful journey. I have a few questions for you, actually. When you spoke to the piece about, emerging from that spinning class and just having like this overwhelming like sense of joy and bliss and I don't know. I know that you mentioned microdosing and ayahuasca helped you to like access some of the healing and feelings. Have you been able to access like that pure bliss feeling and equate it kind of to that? I'm just curious. These are all things I like to talk about. And my favorite with mushrooms are just so profound for me because it is the dark to the light. And I would love to hear if that resonated with you at all.
First of all, what a beautiful question. I've never had anybody ask me that. And that is just so beautiful. Absolutely. And probably not in the way people would think, in that it wasn't me just taking, the mushroom and experiencing the bliss and the bliss, the joy that I felt when I left the cycling class. And ultimately, when I left the cycling class, in some aspects, it was a very temporary feeling from a dopamine hit, in that aspect.
Yep.
But the joy and the bliss that I've been able to access through using psychedelics really has been through me coming to an awareness and an awakening and a sweet remembrance of who I truly am, that I came into this this world worthy. I am worthy, and I that has never left me, never. And really be able to come to this place of truth within myself, which ultimately has brought me so much peace.
Yes.
And that is not just a dopamine hit.
No.
No.
I love how both of you, I think, have mentioned, and this was for sure me, just all of a sudden I started just kind of waking up, but just realizing how my light was dimmed. Like I was unaware myself personally of just how I was kind of autopiloting day to day. And I know everybody went a little cray cray during the pandemic, but my point is, I believe I was unaware about how I was living with a dimmed light. And for me, it really did take psilocybin to just kind of open this access to where I call it like inward intelligence. I was no idea that existed, and so I'll be darned. I needed a little push to get there, and I know everyone's different, but I just love this idea of talking more about our inner lights, and it's about remembering. Really, that's all it is. Um, I'd like to talk about, so you stated your people who are brand new to this have so many questions. Can you kind of walk us through your site or your products and how you would help people that are real new to this and kind of some of the offerings around that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So as Rachel shared, of course, we have this incredible product and it's beautiful and it's healing and it's magnificent. And I am not biased because I am here. Being in the space for over 8 years, this has been some of the most incredible medicine that I've personally worked with. And so I really value that. And to add to that, also what Rachel shared is it's not just about the product, it's about how you work with this product. How you're educated around how to work with it, specifically with the dosing and the type of product and your intentions and your goals, and understanding how to weave all those pieces together so that you can make sense of, okay, this is not just, a pharmaceutical medication that I'm taking every day and I take it in the morning and I take it with or without food. This is something where it's much more seamless than that, but it does take time to understand how to work with it. And then also how to work with what starts to come to the surface from working with it. A lot of times we see with psilocybin specifically is it's very somatic based. So a lot of it, because of what's happening in the brain that we can go into, oftentimes things that we've already touched on of coming back into like my true self, my authenticity, removing the barriers, things like that. All of a sudden emotions can come to the surface. And so a lot of the work that we do through education, circling it back, is teaching people how to also feel resourced to process and navigate, basically through the integration process of it as well. So all that to say, we have a very beautiful entry point where we host monthly educational calls. I'm facilitating those. They're Q&A calls where if you're on our email list, you can join and you can get all of your questions answered with microdosing and macrodosing, because we do have a product line for that as well. And that's a great place to kind of come into the community, kind of see what's going on, get things answered. You also can take our quiz. So if you go to our website, you can take a quiz that will direct you towards the product that would be best for you. We have a 30-day microdosing challenge that we run 3 times a week. I'm facilitating this, and we have some of our partners that come in and teach on their expertise as well. The next one is in May. So this podcast may be out we'll probably be out before then. So that's here, that's alive. And that's a 30-day microdosing experience where we're hand-holding, it's live, we're guiding you exactly how to microdose, how to find the right protocol, what days to microdose, how much to microdose, what medicine to microdose with. So that's a really amazing opportunity. And then if you're like, hey, those aren't that interesting to me, or maybe they are, but not the right time, I want to do something more at my own pace, on my own time. we just recorded, or we just basically launched, not basically, but we did launch a microdosing and macrodosing blueprint course. So
Oh, wow.
this is a 52 video course where you can just press play and you can watch that at home, and you can be guided and taught how to microdose, and then also how to do an at-home macrodosing experience. So those are just some of the ways, incredible ways to get involved. Basically, you know, we looked at the market. We have so much experience in the psychedelic space, and we said, okay, like I said, we have this amazing product. How can we elevate the brand to really meet the need of what the community needs? And what they need is education, and what we need is to learn how to work with this medicine. And that's exactly what we've established.
Absolutely. I'm constantly saying more accessible education, integration, and community, right? So It sounds like you ladies are putting together something really so beautiful and just so dang important. I thought maybe for listeners today, I do get so many people just curious about microdosing. I know it sounds like a total loaded question, but would you be open to talking about some of the suggested protocols? I have kind of developed one myself. I like to do 2 days on and 2 days off, and I'm really looking at the 2 days off as integration, really. And I feel like, I don't know, I haven't always been that way. We don't need to talk about it, but I thought maybe we could talk about just, if you're open to it, your personal protocol, or why you think days off matter, and what happened, just kind of talking, I think it could be valuable to some people out there listening.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I think what would be supportive is to kind of just share like a high overview of what microdosing is, because I think that will make sense as to why are there on days and why are there off days.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So, microdosing is intended to be like a practice where you're microdosing throughout the week versus like one big journey that you're going into one day. So it's not like a one day, one time experience, such as what we hear with a macrodose, a ceremonial experience. It's intended to typically be microdosing. If we're talking about mushrooms, usually 3 to 4 times a week. If we're talking LSD, maybe 2 to 4 times a week. And the goal is that you want to maintain a specific protocol that we'll kind of go into over a period of time. So say 30 days minimum, to just give yourself the opportunity to see it through, to start to notice the changes, to kind of make adjustments as needed to find like the dose and the protocol and all those sorts of things. What we find is usually 90 days maximum is a good time to pause. And the reasons for that are usually to avoid the tolerance buildup, kind of reset, but even beyond that, to check in. Hey, I came to this specific protocol with these goals and these intentions. Say, for example, you wanted to alleviate a lot of anxiety symptoms. How's that going? How am I feeling? Have I integrated that? To your point, Maggie, have I implemented these changes? And so usually 1 to 2 weeks is a solid break at that time. Some people do longer. And if you want to continue to microdose, which most people ask, like, is this something that I do one time, or do I keep microdosing? And it's like breath work or meditation, where it's a practice. It's this new tool. It's this new modality that you can implement whenever you desire. Yeah. So, and at that time, you can choose a different protocol. You can choose different goals and intentions. You can take what you, experienced from the last protocol and deepen or build from that place. So that's microdosing. And so if we go into some of the protocols, so, the first protocol to come to the market, it's not a market, it's a space. It's not quite yet a market. It's almost there. The Fadiman protocol, right? So that's 1 day on, 2 days off. That is an amazing protocol where James Fadiman is a phenomenal researcher in the microdosing space. He created this protocol from all the data and research that he had been collecting for many years. So this is one of the first protocols. It's great because it allows you the opportunity to start to experience, like, especially being new. How does microdosing feel on day one? Now that I'm new and I'm getting the idea of how this feels, how I respond. Day 2, he established through his data that it's like this afterglow experience where a lot of people sometimes will feel better the next day. And the medicine is still in your system, but it's just not as present as day one. And then day 3 was, it's out of your system at this point. How do I now feel in comparison to, those other 2 days? So that was basically why that cycle was created.
I never knew that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We can have a whole podcast on.
I know. Were you going to mention stamets, or do you have a recommended?
Yeah, that one's awesome. 4 days on, 3 days off. Some people flip that, 3 days on, 4 days off. But Paul Stamets is a mycologist in the space, ton of research and data on this specific protocol as well. But the difference with this one in comparison to other protocols is it's a stacking method. So stacking is when you add medicinal mushrooms, herbs, things like that to psilocybin. And so basically this has niacin and lion's mane is what he suggests to also microdose with. The 4 days on, for example, would be combining those 3 together. And then the 3 days off, you pull out the psilocybin and you're just microdosing with the lion's mane and the niacin. So this is amazing for preventing like any neuro disease in the brain, preventing Alzheimer's, dementia, if that runs in your family. So there's this whole like therapeutic side to it, but there's also this whole productivity and peak performance aspect to it where people love to use this protocol to like really focus on projects and, create creative outlets and things along those lines. I would add a few more. So like the Microdosing Institute's a great company. They do microdosing every other day. And Dr. Fadiman's very involved with the Microdosing Institute. They're very credible. And they created this protocol for a lot of people who potentially are on antidepressants or are looking to taper off, or that's kind of something that they're toying around with, potentially getting on, and they don't want to go down that process because you're so used to taking something daily. It's like, okay, how can I start to not essentially replace, but kind of start to bring something in that I'm used to consuming every single day as I potentially start to taper off, as an example.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate that. I think it's they're endless.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for covering that. I wanted to just one more quick question. When you're working with people, so for me, I guess my microdosing practice has changed. I used to spend the days on, I still have to do my daily duties, all the work, everything. But when I microdose now, I truly try to take time to stop, pause, and go inward whilst I'm feeling the subtle, if any, there's very little effects. Do you ladies incorporate mindful practices when you're having medicine, or is there any talk around that? Or I'm just curious. Meditation has become it's a part of my practice that is newer within the past year, but it's for me really, I think, a crucial component to understanding a lot about yourself and how you trust in yourself and trust in the medicine and trust in the process. So I'd like to hear any conversation that you have around that.
Yeah, well, definitely incorporating different wellness practices with microdosing, and also on days that I'm not microdosing. I feel like for me, it really is a habit put into place day in and day out.
Yes.
And so I think, first of all, we encourage everybody to incorporate those mindful practices. I'm sorry, just to interject, when you're encouraging people, do you point them to resources? I find that there's a lot of people who, I don't know if they just haven't meditated, or they're wanting to learn actually kind of the art of doing it. And I'm always just trying to say, heck, it can happen in your bed before you do anything or roll out of it. But yeah, do you have any for yourself, like any, for me, it was Dr. Joe Dispenza, but like, I'm trying to figure out, what you're recommending and how they're going inward. Yeah. So we definitely recommend it. And it's in, so if you simply buy a product from us and maybe you don't join one of our programs, you're going to get emails that talk to you about these wellness practices that you should be implementing and listing out different wellness, mindful practices that should be taking place in your practice, as well as when you receive a postcard from us with your product, we talk about that as well. Okay. But, I think that there's such a wide variety of mindful practices that can be taking place. Joe Dispenza, absolutely right there with you, sister. Like Joe Dispenza was actually, even before I got into psychedelics, I was going to Joe Dispenza retreats. I just think he's phenomenal and just such a great doorway for people in understanding the power that they have within inside of them. But I would say, a big thing that we talk about and that I really incorporate in my life is contemplation. And so really it is just moments of, I do meditate. I meditate almost daily in my sauna. Wow. But for me, it's more of the throughout the day. I got my morning routine on lock, man. I'm one of those people that they make fun of on Reels. That's like, wakes up at 5:30 a.m., does their workout, then the sauna, then the cold plunge, and I'm all there.
Wow.
But I think that one, for a lot of people, that's a very far off thing yet from where they are. And so how do you get people to start implementing these routines in their life in a small, attainable way? Mm-hmm. And so I think contemplation is such a beautiful way to do that. And you could set an alarm in your phone, or there's a couple of apps that now do it for you, of like, it'll ding you, at certain times of the day or every hour or whatever it is. And it's taking a few minutes. And you can set how long you want it to be. It could be a couple minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want it to be. But to just put everything away for those few minutes, 5, 10 minutes, and just be. And just allow yourself to be in the present moment and to not be distracted, and to allow your thoughts to, to go where they're not, what's also helpful around it is having a question that you bring in at the beginning of the day that you contemplate on throughout the day.
Wow.
Right. So it could be honestly about anything, but it's a thought, and it's a question that ultimately is going to take you to many different places as you sit with it. And this is so incredibly powerful while you're microdosing. And I feel like this is such an obtainable practice for anybody, in that, if you can spend, 30 minutes scrolling on your phone, you can spend 5 minutes a couple times throughout your day to sit with a question and just allow it to roll and see where it goes.
Absolutely. I feel like just being curious about that idea, I, for ages, meditation, or, I think I just was so afraid to sit alone with myself. I was, just constantly distraction after distraction or whatever it was. And I don't know, it kind of did take some inner effort. But I do absolutely 100% agree. It's microdosing is this practice, and the medicine is just a small component, and it's really, you having to meet it halfway. And then while you're in this program, just really taking or trying to be mindful about everything, because I feel like the more you're doing the work and meeting it halfway, the more benefits. And I mean, honestly, let's talk about such transformation can happen from microdosing. I'd like to hear, do you have any success stories, or are there people kind of repetitive? I'd like to hear more about just people you've worked with, and maybe what types of people you're helping, if all full spectrum. I know I'll stop talking and let you go.
You're fine. I would say typically, we're in the range of what we see. The most people that come to us are anywhere from 30 to 50. We actually have a large amount of men and women.
Okay.
And so definitely pretty even across the board there. As far as, so we receive testimonials every single day.
Oh, wow.
From people who have, it's just completely transformed their lives, but in so many different ways, which is just so beautiful because it's anywhere from, depression, PTSD, ADHD to massive anxiety. Anxiety is such a big one. To people who just like feel so much better, like they're more focused, they feel more on point, they feel like more present in their day, more open-hearted, empathetic, and just like how much it's helped them in different areas of their life, from being a mom to being a leader in their space, But I do have a testimonial right here.
Oh, wow.
That we just got, and I can read it. It's really short, but
I would love for you to. Thank you.
It's just, one of these things we see, and it's been an amazing journey. I started from a deep depression with grief and sorrow after the loss of my other half, my cat, and my dog, one after another within 3 years. I felt like I was dying from the inside out when multiple things led me to look into mushrooms and to your site. Happy Blend has helped me so much to shift my perspective and get me out of depression. Flow Blend helped me focus and be more present. I noticed I was able to get things done without struggle.
Ah.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
So, yeah, it is. I mean, again, it so ranges in the types of messages we hear from people going on maybe larger journeys. We do have products that do facilitate that. And when I say larger journeys, I'm talking more like 1 to 3 gram larger journeys, not necessarily hero doses, but just the like beauty that it brought them in having these experiences of like just total peace and realizing that everything around them is so connected, and coming to this place of like, it's just not that serious,
Right.
we make it so much more complicated than it is. And, and when you can come to that place, I really feel like that is just such an awakening for people, because we're living in these day-to-day loops that we feel we're just living in them to over and over and over again. We feel so serious in them and detrimental in so many ways. And it's when you're able to see past that and be able to see that truly the beauty of life and the possibility and the interconnectedness of everybody, I think it helps release that for people.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I also just really appreciate microdosing because, we're talking such small amounts, but it's just this gentle hug that I feel, or this kind of like continual lift. Again, so hard to explain or put into words, but it's just the support of something bigger than me. So it's, again, I can't say enough. Psilocybin, I originally needed help addressing, I call it my alcohol use disorder. My life had been kind of spiraling, and that's all I needed. And I asked my microdose, just please help me feel like I don't need a drink today, or please help me go out in public and socialize and not feeling like I have to be a hermit crab. Is that what we call them? Anyway, so this has just been so fantastic. I wanted to ask, how did your paths cross?
Yeah, I went to go hear Tiffany. So there was a a convention happening in Denver, psychedelic event. And I had been following Tiffany already for a little while on social media. And I had reached out to her because I felt like there was just so much connection there to be had. So I reached out to her and then heard that she's going to be speaking in Denver and, pretty close to where I am. And I went to go hear her speak. And after that, we really continued to build a relationship. And it really just came to a point of us really being in alignment in so many aspects and how we want to help people. And so we've just continued to do that through Golden Rule.
Wow. Well, what a beautiful journey and story. And I just am so proud of you, actually, for putting together a company and something that's so beautiful, because I truly appreciate just the educational piece. And it sounds like integration is, of highest importance. I think that when people have these experiences, like, that's really where the journey begins. So I'm excited to help promote you. And I think as long as we can just keep these conversations happening and normalizing all of our stories, there's so many similarities and everything is just ultimately interwoven. And thank you. Let's call out some of see how people can find you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having us. It's been such a beautiful and insightful conversation. So you can find us on our website, goldenrulemushrooms.com. You can also email us directly. We're always in there answering emails right away at hello@goldenrulemushrooms.com. Our Instagram, Golden Rule Mushrooms. And we also have another Instagram, a backup account, Golden Rule Microdose.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yes.
And then personal, you can find me at I am Tiffany Hurd. And then Rachel is Rachel.pastor. And we'll have everything in the show notes.
Wonderful. Yes, everything will be in the show notes. Let's see here. Do you have anything else? Any exciting journeys coming up or anything you want to end on?
Journeys, life is a journey, so we're excited about that. But in terms of, by the time this podcast is airing, we have the 30-day microdosing experience that you can join. That starts May 1st. And then the blueprint that we talked about, the microdosing and the macrodosing at your own pace, you can purchase that at any time through the website as well. What else? You can join our monthly calls as well. You can get on our email list and you can hear about those. And anything else that I am missing, Rachel?
Well, as Tiffany always says, if you're listening to this podcast, you were brought here for a reason. And to hear this message and, in essentially the medicine is called upon you. And so will you listen? Will you listen to the call? And will you answer? So
I couldn't love it anymore. I appreciate you too. So grateful. Thank you so much. And let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks, guys.
For more information, please visit mindsonmushrooms.com. Thank you for joining the journey.